Hey viewers, welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Bckwrdbbq, and this week we were going to be looking at The Legend of Zelda. Let's go down the rabbit hole. The plot of the entire series is actually very complicated and actually involves 3 different timelines. The whole thing starts with Skyward Sword. At the end of the game, the demon Demise curses his hatred to be reborn over and over again. He also curses the one with the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero to also be reborn over and over again to continue to fight against his hatred over and over for all eternity. On down the line, you come to Ocarina of Time, and this is where things get a little bit messy, because time travel, so why wouldn't it? At the end of Ocarina of Time, if the hero succeeds and is sent back to his own timeline to live out his life, then Ganondorf never succeeds and is executed. This eventually leads to the events of Twilight Princess, in which Ganondorf comes back. In another timeline, the hero succeeds, but the world has already been destroyed by Ganondorf. Eventually, Ganondorf escapes, so the goddesses flood Hyrule, and this leads to the events of Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass. The final timeline involves the hero failing to defeat Ganondorf. When this happens, he is in his final form, Ganon. The sages lock him away, but he escapes, and this leads to the events of the original series, starting with A Link to the Past, which is a prequel to Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2. The original concept of the game always involved time travel. The first game's concept was that the Triforce was actually pieces of a microchip that would allow Link to travel between 2 different time periods. The name Link came from the fact that he was the link between the 2 different time periods. The first Legend of Zelda actually includes a second quest that you unlock by beating the game. This quest actually has completely redesigned dungeons. You can access this second quest by using the name Zelda as your character name. There is an enemy in the first game called a pole, and poles are weak to sound. This is a reference to the fact that the original Famicom had a microphone that you could actually make a loud noise to defeat the poles. In the American version, the NES does not have this, but the manual still has the reference to the loud noise, and this led to lots of confusion of people trying to plant bombs and stuff to try to defeat them, and it does not work. There was actually a re-release done on regular gray cartridges. These are actually more rare than the original gold cartridges because those were so common. In the original test version of Legend of Zelda, you had a sword with you, but nobody could figure out what you were supposed to do, so they took the sword away and had you go find the sword in the beginning of the game. Suddenly people understood the exploration point of the game. In Japan, the game was released originally as The Hyrule Fantasy: The Legend of Zelda. At the time the game came out, poaching of talent was a huge problem, so the developers actually were credited under pseudonyms. Miyamoto is credited as S. Miyahan, Tezuku as Tenten, Kondo as Kanchan, and the programmer Marui was credited as Maru Maru. There was an expansion for the SNES called the Satellaview. It was a broadcast sent over a satellite dish that you would plug into your system, and there were special versions of games. There was a special 16-bit version of the original Zelda game that was remade specifically for this system. It basically just had modified graphics and updated maps so that it played a little bit quicker because you had to play it in a specific time frame. There were 2 different Legend of Zelda remakes, a sequel to Link to the Past, as well as another one that was just Link to the Past. Some of the changes, though, involved orchestral music that was live broadcast, an actual voice actor, and events that happened at specific times during the game. You had to play the game during the specific points in time that it was being broadcast or you would miss it. You could only collect 2 pieces of the Triforce per broadcast, so you had to keep coming back each day of the broadcast to complete the game. The Legend of Zelda actually has a long history of not using discs. The original Legend of Zelda was actually released in Japan on the Famicom using a Famicom disk system. It featured better audio, and it was supposed to feature a dungeon editor. The conversion to the cartridge meant that the cartridge had to have a much larger capacity as well as have a battery to save the memory. The Ocarina of Time was also supposed to be released on disc for the N64DD. It was stripped back for the cartridge version, and there was a rumor of a N64DD expansion for the game. While it is unknown what the expansion was, many people believe that the Master Quest is the bulk of what the Zelda expansion disc would have been. Link is actually left-handed because Miyamoto is left-handed. There are a few exceptions to this. In Skyward Sword, as well as Twilight Princess for the Wii, Link is right-handed. This is because most people use the Wii remote in their right hand, including Miyamoto. It is also worth noting that in Breath of the Wild, Link is also right-handed. Ocarina of Time actually features a foot race that you cannot win. You will always lose. This was a joke put in by Miyamoto because he's evil or something. I'm not sure. Ganondorf's transformation into Ganon in Ocarina of Time was supposed to be much larger, and he was supposed to be climbable for the battle, but you couldn't see all of him on screen at once. Legend of Zelda was also adapted into an animated television show that aired as part of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show.
Hey! Excuse me, princess!
There is actually a Nintendo cereal. One half of the box features Fruity Mario cereal, and the other half of the box features Zelda Berry cereal. Throughout the Legend of Zelda series, there are lots of glitches. The NES version of the game only allows 11 different sprites to be on screen at any given time. The whistle forgets to check if there's too many sprites on the screen. As a result, if you have all of the requirements right, you have to have your character named something very specific, you have to have specific things in your inventory, you have to wait to a specific part of the song and go to a specific screen, and you will warp directly to the final congratulations screen with Zelda. In Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess, there are glitches that let you play on the title screen. Ocarina of Time features a glitch that allows you to play any object as an ocarina. If you do this glitch into the warp zone to leave a dungeon, you can actually walk around the room, exit the chamber, and end up in an entirely different room. If you do this right, you can actually warp into the final boss room and beat the game in under 18 minutes. Nintendo was actually working with Sony to create an add-on for the SNES called the PlayStation. Nintendo changed their mind at the last minute, and right after Sony made this announcement, Nintendo made the announcement they were partnering with Philips instead. Eventually, the Philips deal fell through as well. As a result of this, Philips got to make a few games using Nintendo characters. One of these games was Hotel Mario. There were 2 animated Zelda games, Link Faces of Evil and Zelda the Wand of Gamelon. In Zelda the Wand of Gamelon, you actually play as Zelda and you have to rescue Link. These games feature horrendous controls and very, very painful tutorial level.
To open the pouch, make me crouch down and then press button 2. Don't forget, I can only open the pouch when I'm crouching.
They also made a live-action Zelda game called Zelda's Adventure, and it features a wizard narrating for some reason.
And so it was that Ganon, Lord of Darkness...
That's it for this episode. Here's a clue about the next episode. Be sure to leave a comment about what you think the episode will be about, and be sure to subscribe so you can find out for sure when I post. Until next time, may the Force be with you.